Right now, we have on the program the Umatilla Athletic Director, Patrick Todd. Patrick, welcome to the Sports Hub.
Great to be here. Appreciate you guys doing this. It's fantastic for Lake County and our student athletes. We really appreciate you having us here.
Absolutely, Patrick. Great to have you along. Those who don't know Patrick Todd, he has over 500 games won as a varsity basketball head coach for Leesburg, Eustis, Mount Dora Christian Academy. What's it been like coming back? Because you're coming back from a college. You have now, for the last couple of years, been the athletic director for Umatilla High School. Can you tell me about that process and what brought you to the community?
It's been great. You know, we've raised our kids here. I came here in 1988 as part of Leesburg High School's coaching staff and left there and went to Georgia State University, never sold our home, came back, was principal at Christian Home and Bible School, which is now Mount Dora Christian Academy, and then I was the head coach and athletic director at Florida College in Tampa, but my wife has continued to work here in Lake County. So this is where we've raised our children, and we feel vested in the community, and so it was just time for me to get closer to home.
Yeah.
Never really thought about Umatilla until we came back. I've always thought the Umatilla community was fantastic, but from an athletic standpoint, it really hadn't made a mark in Lake County, and so I had a couple of friends of mine, they're retired teachers and coaches, that said, you know, if you can build it at Umatilla, you know, that could be a legacy opportunity. I met Brent Frazier, and we saw things very similarly and really got excited about what could happen in Umatilla. And I think in our 4 years, this is our fourth year now, we've really changed the culture both academically and athletically. And Coach Samuels, who I think you're going to spend some time with later today, is a part of that change. And so we're just super excited about the kids, the families, the coaches, the teachers, and we're starting to see some fruits of that labor.
Yeah, and you mentioned Principal Frazier and what he's been able to bring to Umatilla. He obviously brings you in. What can you say about Principal Frazier? I mean, I've seen in the last couple of years sort of a narrative change within the Umatilla high school community.
Well, I think the thing that's exciting about Brent is he has a lot of energy, and he's invested in children. And so, you know, when you think about schools that are impactful, they're schools that are student-centered, not adult-centered. And he's a student-centered leader. And so as a former principal, as a former college athletic director, the successful programs that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of has always kept the student and the student athlete in the focus of what they're doing. So we began to talk about ways in which we can and not ways in which we can't.
Right.
And so I think he had a great strategic plan in terms of what he wanted to do academically. We were fortunate to have opportunity to bring in like-minded people to support that plan. And then our students have worked incredibly hard. And so as we look at our test scores, as they line up across the district, we've gone from last to first, if you will, in so many areas. Right now we have the highest test scores in mathematics, second in English. We are producing a graduate now well prepared to walk into a classroom at the collegiate level and compete. I think on the athletic side, we have had great people involved in our programs throughout years, but we've fielded teams and not developed programs. And so we wanted to shift that dynamic to really developing programs. And then part of that is creating a collegiate experience at the high school level for our student athletes. And that's from how you prepare, how you practice, how you play, how you dress, how you walk, how you talk, how you communicate in your classroom, all the way down to the playing field and the court. And so we're in the journey, but the joy's in the journey, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, being that you come from Florida College, you come back to Umatilla. What did you bring from your experience at Florida College back to the Umatilla community, especially the high school?
Well, I think from a basketball standpoint, I didn't have 4 7-footers on my bench, and I didn't have 2 All-American guards, and so the talent level was certainly a different. Matter of fact, it took a lot of adjustment. I remember my first practice, and I'm talking about a pin-down screen, and finally our best player, who's a college player right now, says, "Coach, we don't know what a pin-down screen is." So I had to adjust my whole thinking to that. But you know, when we went to Florida College, they hadn't won in 20 years, and in our first year, we went to a national tournament, and we went to 5 national tournaments in our time there. You know, played on ESPN 7 or 8 different times, and I think it goes back to the same thing that Brent Frazier and I have talked about from day one, is let's make it student-centered. Let's be excellent in all that we do. Let's provide our people with the tools they need to produce excellence, and then let's demand the most from ourselves and from our student athletes. And so we've been able to turn it around. Umatilla hadn't had a winning season in 50 years. We've had 3 in a row. We went to the state playoffs last year. We hope to go back again this year.
You almost did it last year too.
And so we're knocking on the door. And but what we're seeing it in baseball, we're seeing it in football, we're seeing it in all of our sports, and we're growing. Now it doesn't mean that some days you feel like you're taking a step backwards because it's tough. It's tough treading. But in the long run, we know what our goals are. We know what our plan is. We believe our plan to be right. We constantly evaluate that plan. And I think we're communicating to our kids that why not us? Why not us? And so we're starting to see some things on campus that are really exciting. The first thing we see is our kids expect to do well academically now. That's a different change than when we walked on campus 3 years ago. And athletically, our kids expect to win. And I think that's been the hardest part to turn, to be honest with you, is because for so long there was a comfort level in not necessarily being successful. And now we want there to be a comfort level in being successful and to be uncomfortable when we're not. And so I think there's a lot of ways to look at that. For us, we want to have, I think self-evaluation is a huge tool. And so if we're not successful, why aren't we successful? And that starts with me. And so you got to look at yourself every day. I mean, you got to be accountable every day. If we're talking about really growing great human beings, our kind of our mantra is developing champions of character.
Right.
So, when it really gets down to it, no one's going to remember who wins the state championship. They're going to remember if you paid your bills. They're going to remember what kind of father you are, what kind of husband you are, what kind of community member you are. We want to develop young men and women that can champion those ideas, and we think athletics gives us a great platform to do that.
I talked to Principal Frazier as well about the ACE program that Umatilla has going on. Can you talk a little bit about that for those who don't know about the ACE program?
Yeah, the Cambridge ACE program has been really great for, as a former principal, I think one of the challenges with AP curriculum is the AP curriculum is great, but the national pass rate to get that college credit is very low.
Yeah.
And historically that's been the case. And so the ACE Cambridge program it's a rigorous program, but the pass rate for those national testing scores are a little bit better. And so we've been able to launch that. We're only in, this will be our third year, but really our third year is really our first year of doing it across the board in our curriculum. So now there's opportunities for kids to earn that ACE diploma. So our current junior class is on track to have those ACE diplomas. So those kids are going to get college credits on our campus without ever having to leave campus and their high school credit, and that's a huge deal. So when you start to think about almost having an AA degree, that's a lot of money for a parent to be thinking about planning for college. What I think it's done, the other part is our kids now expect to go to college. And I think every school in our district is different. And one of the blueprints, I think, is that when you look at Mineola or East Ridge, those are probably families that are sending their kids to school that are college graduates. In Umatilla, historically, we don't have as many college graduates sending their kids there. So it's a blue-collar community. Now our kids are thinking, well, yeah, college is for me. That is what I'm doing. And you know what? I'm prepared to compete in that classroom, and I'm prepared to start to dream dreams that I didn't think could happen before. And so that's pretty exciting. When you can teach a kid to dream, I think you've opened the door to a lifetime of success.
Yeah, it's huge, especially with that ACE program. What Umatilla is doing is fantastic. A couple of other schools in the area are catching on to that as well, which I think is fantastic. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about football for a moment. And you obviously lost Coach Kearney to Mount Dora High School this year. Coach Kearney joined them. As that happens, you have your sights set on a new head football coach for Umatilla. That just so happened to be Eric Samuels. How did that develop?
Well, I think what I learned at the collegiate level as an administrator is you're always in the back of your mind have a short list of people you want to work through should jobs open up. And at the college level, coaches are moving in. It's a moving platform. You can see that in the landscape of conferences right now. So I had a short list of guys that if our job ever opened, that I would want to have a conversation with, and Coach Samuels was certainly one of those. I think the one thing about Coach Cerny, when he came to Umatilla's had a long history of tough sledding, so to speak, in football. And he did some things that I think put us in a competitive nature, and we appreciate that. And as he moved on to his opportunity at Mount Dora, we were looking for someone who shared the same vision we have for not only for football, but for our whole school. And we wanted a person that had ties to our community. And Coach Samuels played at Umatilla. One of the things I think is interesting about his story is he was on an 0-10 football team, but he parlayed that into a scholarship at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So he's invested. He's invested in our community, and that was important to us. I wanted someone that could lay out a plan of success that mirrored our foundational core values. And so as we began those conversations, it became very clear very quickly that he was a guy that we wanted, and we were fortunate enough to get him.
Yeah, and the fact that he did go 0-10 his senior year and was able to go on to a fantastic career in the SEC, playing for Vanderbilt, ended up playing professionally in the CFL, which is fantastic. And he spent the last couple of years in the community in Wildwood. So he comes on board. What are you looking forward to in the next couple of years at Umatilla as you continue to grow?
Well, I think the one thing that I think to have an appreciation for where you want to go, you have to appreciate where you've been. And the one thing I appreciate about Coach Samuels right away is he recognized the work that Coach Cerny had done and appreciated that. And I thought that showed a tremendous amount of maturity from him, and it validated those core values that I know he has. But what he has done is he's laid the foundation for a culture that is program changing. And, I think everybody measures success differently. Sometimes we measure it in wins and losses. And of course, in athletics, that's part of the equation. But what kind of student athlete are we producing at the end of our 4 years with them? Those things those matter to us, and he understands that the work ethic that's going to lead to success there is going to be the same work ethic that's going to lead to success in their families when they're raising their children, and what kind of contributor they're going to be to our community. He understands that. He's not taking shortcuts to win. He wants it done the right way. He wants our kids to behave the right way, act the right way, practice the right way. Those are all the things that I believe to be so important. And I also believe is those are the core values that I think are lost in our college and high school sports today. I mean, what's happened with collegiate athletics with the NIL and the trickle down to the high school. It's not uncommon now. My last recruiting class I had at the college level, I signed 4 kids who were at 4 different high schools in 4 different years, and that's the norm, and that shouldn't be. And so we want kids that want to work hard, want to do it the right way, want to pay a price to be great, and he mirrors that in such a huge way. So we're super excited to have him.
Well, Coach, it's been a pleasure having you on. We're running out of time here, but I'll tell you what, you're doing great things at Umatilla High School, and thank you so much for coming on the Sports Hub today.
I appreciate you having us. Thank you.
All right.